picture on her Facebook page.
Oh, that's not what we want.
No.
We may be live now.
Hilarious.
Let's be appropriate. We are live. So we'll try to be appropriate.
This is the second time today I have had technical issues with one of these platforms.
Hey, everybody. Today we are going to talk about 6 ways to overcome mismatched anxiety levels. So what to do when your partner is driving you crazy.
Well, I didn't say that. I just said you're my partner. Aren't you glad you weren't inappropriate when we were live? And no one knew, and you didn't know we were live.
I am never.
He is. I know. I have to tell a story. I was doing book tour for Omni Diet. I was on the news. I was on Good Day New York, and he's with me, and we were mic'd, and we're sitting on the couch, and he started saying very inappropriate things, forgetting that he was mic'd.
Marital thing.
Yeah, but they were very inappropriate. They were not appropriate.
You're going to start this live with
I'm
that?
just saying. You have to be careful what you say.
Mismatch.
Someone is always listening.
All right, pop quiz. On a scale of 1 to 10, where's your anxiety levels these days? So 1 is really awful, 10 is peaceful. Where's 10 is?
Well, I was just telling you, about a year and a half ago, I was thinking to myself, how is it possible for my life to be so perfect? Like, it just feels so peaceful and so good. And then about a month ago, I was like, just like, and I'm not generally an anxious person like that. So I might cause a little anxiety, but I don't usually get much anxiety.
She causes.
And I'm telling you, I have been so anxious.
So 1 to 10.
I wouldn't say 10. I would say probably more like 7, but that's a lot for me.
All right, so 1 is none and 10 is terrible.
Yeah,
You're
6,
like,
7 is high. That's high for me.
yeah, and I think the weeks of the
rioting.
protests and rioters.
The protests didn't bother me. It's the rioting started to scare me, and I was like, okay, this is getting out of control. Like, it's starting to freak me out now. So like the quarantine, everybody was inside. I could see people getting depressed. That didn't affect me as much. It was when I felt a lack of control, the chaos, that scared me.
And what's your anxiety level? Mine's 2.
Yours was more, we were mismatched because your anxiety didn't go up at all during the social stuff. Well, I don't know about not at all, but not much. But your anxiety over the virus is much higher than mine.
It is. I don't
So we're
want
mismatched.
it. I have a dad that died at least partly from it. I have no interest in the virus. And I think that don't worry, be happy people, the people who show up without masks and want to shake your hands, I'm not happy about that.
Yeah.
It's like, because we have to protect not only ourselves, we need to be protecting other people.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the girls' anxiety levels? Initially, it was really high and had nothing to do with the virus. It had to do with not seeing their friends.
Quarantine, yeah.
And
Chloe losing a job, and she had just gotten her license. That was really
well. And what about you that are watching? What about your kids? And the whole idea of this talk is what happens when anxiety's mismatched.
Mm-hmm.
When one is high and one is low. I mean, when they're both high, there's trouble going on because neither one of you are really processing effectively, because anxiety decreases processing skills. Negativity is not great for your brain. So you can just imagine with all the negativity over the last 18 weeks. Can you believe it? We're 18 weeks into this thing. My goodness, pretty soon it's going to be like half a baby.
Right.
So how about at your home? And do you feel safer at home, but your partner wants to go on vacation? I just had that talk with someone today. Or are you the one who wants to host a party, but your
I had that talk
family,
today too, because Chloe wants to have a party here, and I'm like,
no.
no, we'll have a small get together and then need to stay outside. But that's it.
So, and when we had my dad's funeral, that was
You were
like
anxious.
50 people. No, that's a bad idea. If you're a 9, but your significant other is a 4 or a 2, and your kids are a 2, you've got an anxiety mismatch. So, and I think early on in the pandemic, our anxiety sort of went together.
I know we were totally the same, and that made me feel really good. So I'm always prepared. Like I'm prepared for everything. So I just it's how I manage it's how I feel empowered, so I feel prepared. It's how I sort of control my anxiety is by always being prepared. And so when the quarantine hit, I kind of felt like, oh, I got this, because I've been preparing for a long time for something weird to happen. And I just immediately kicked into gear, started cleaning stuff, stocking up on food, which I already had most of, but trying to make sure we had everything. And you were just like right there. Okay, let's make sure, you were helping me get everything together. And I'm like, oh, this is really comforting. And I realized, and I told you, I feel so comforted because we were like on the same page. During the social stuff, you weren't on the same page with me. And it just made my anxiety kick in harder, and I dug my heels in. I'm like, I'm going to go to the mountains by myself, find a cabin, buy a cabin somewhere. Like I got really upset. I want to be away from everybody. I want no people around.
And like now, I was just looking at her, like, who stole my wife?
Yeah, no,
where's my best friend?
Well, and sometimes your anxiety is triggered by something
And
in
for
your
me,
past.
I remember the Vietnam protests. I remember the riots in the 60s and Watts in LA.
But if I hear one more time, nothing bad happens where we live, I'm like going to lose my mind. Like nothing bad ever happens here. I'm like, no.
We live in one of the safest communities.
It doesn't matter.
In the world.
No.
All right.
But one thing I want to say is your anxiety can be triggered by, like for me, the reason the protests triggered me, the reason that the quarantine didn't is because I'm a nurse and I kind of felt like, oh, I've got some training and trying to like keep things safe. But the protest triggered sort of my own trauma from the past when I was a child, when I felt out of control. So things from your past can sort of affect how you handle things going forward.
Well, and I have this formula I've been talking about, TLC, that resilience goes when you see a crisis as temporary, as local, even though it's a global pandemic. Here we are in Orange County, what's happening locally, and control. What can I do and what can't I do, right? There's certain things I can't do. I can't control what's going on with other people, but I can control myself. And certainly I've learned, having 4 children now, I just cannot control teenagers. Try as I might, it just isn't going to happen. I could nudge, I can influence, I can try not to
also
yell at.
Well, what I've learned is like one thing I got really good at is I cannot control what you do, but I can very much control what I do, like where my car goes, what my money gets spent on, and what I spend my time and energy on.
TLC, temporary local control. Do what you can do. So an anxiety mismatch during a pandemic can increase tension, fear, worries, frustration, irritability, relationship problems. Now, what it does is cortisol. So you're stressed, and I think of cholesterol as the mother hormone. It's really important not to be too high, but you also don't want it to be too low. But when you're stressed, you use your hormone precursors, go to cortisol and adrenaline, and just completely messes with estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So you're so stressed, you don't want to be touched. Your sex life can not be good. And that's part of what can cause relationship problems.
Well, and if you're not sleeping, it affects your sleep. And if you're not sleeping, then your hormones are further disrupted and it becomes this vicious circle.
Right. So at Amen Clinics, we've had so many patients asking for help on how to deal with family members. In fact, we keep track of that every day on why people call, and marital issues went way up. And so we're going to write a blog on the number one thing you should ask yourself before you ask someone to marry you or before you say yes. And the number one thing you should ask yourself is, can I live with this person in a pandemic? Can I be with them 24/7? Because golf is gone, going to the casinos gone, going to bars gone, going to Laker game gone. And I have the answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we actually did.
Because you're my best friend.
We did really well during that. I freaked out, like I said, when I felt the lack of control. Yeah.
So,
Until then.
we were talking about our own mismatched anxiety. You're always
Everybody's got
prepared.
mismatched anxiety somewhere. Yeah. So hold on. So now though, he actually appreciates, this is one good thing that came out of it. He used to be annoyed by how much time and energy I spent preparing, because I like prepare for disasters. I'm one of the local volunteers in my community for disaster preparation. And if there's a disaster, we show up, that kind of a thing. So I'm one of my local volunteers in my city. And so he used to kind of give me a hard time about how much time and energy I spent on it. And now all of a sudden he's like, I really appreciate that about you. I'm never going to give you a hard time again. See, so some good things can come out of these things.
I know it's going to cost me money. All right, 6 things you can do to cope with mismatched anxiety. Number 1, avoid the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You want to ruin a relationship? This is research from John Gottman. He talks about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Contempt. Talk down to your partner. That is actually one of the predictors of divorce. Criticize. Don't look at you, just look at them and complain. Defensiveness. No matter what it is they say, it's like you wear Teflon, you don't hear it, bounces back.
Or the automatic no is another one.
Or stonewalling, where you just won't deal with the situation. So avoid those. Number 2, share the reasons behind your anxiety. Talk it through. And for the person who's less anxious, you want to be a good listener. So I pride myself on being a good listener, and I'm a good listener when I've slept, when I've ate in a healthy way, when I don't believe every stupid thing I think.
Well, and we all have times where we don't think something is important that our partner might think is more important. But one thing you're good at is, even if there's times where you don't think what I'm stressed out about is important and you don't understand why I'm stressed out about. But if I stop you and go, I need you to listen. This is important to me. You will, even if you don't feel like it is, you will stop and go, okay, I hear you. So I might have to say that to you, but you will do it.
Looking at buying a mountain.
Yes. Somewhere completely isolated. So might be in Antarctica.
Communicate. 3, don't be too controlling. Making ultimatums and then attempting to keep others in lockdown can backfire. Teens tend to rebel when parents are overly controlling. And I think initially our teenager just freaked out, really. But when you took time to really listen and help her understand why she reacted, it actually brought you back to a time in your 20s when you were diagnosed with cancer. And you just couldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. Right? And so it's she couldn't believe it.
You keep saying, no, this isn't happening.
Create clear goals. I just did this with one of my couples on the phone today. Love doing it. All businesses have business plans. They have mission statements. Mm-hmm. You need a plan for your relationship. And ours, and it's basically been the same since the beginning. What do we want? A kind, caring, loving, supportive, passionate relationship. Always want that. Mm-hmm. Don't always feel like that. Get all sorts of rude thoughts in my head.
Like I'm leaving and going to a mountain cabin by myself.
And when we get settled and we go, well, if I say this, does it fit the goal? If I do this, does it fit the goal? And I never want you to feel like I don't love you, or I don't trust you, or I don't care
Right.
about you. And so not believing, Jerry Seinfeld
Okay.
once said, the brain is a sneaky organ. We all have weird, crazy, stupid, sexual, violent thoughts that no one should ever hear. And so before you let that thought get out of your mouth, ask yourself, does it fit? Will it get me what I want in my relationship? But first you have to know what you want. So clear goals help lower high anxiety. One of my favorite supplements is Happy Saffron. There's three of us in this house are taking Happy Saffron just to, during a stressful time, helps to boost your mood, lower anxiety. We also at Brain MD make something called GABA calming that helps just to take the edge off. Alcohol's not the thing.
I felt like a drug dealer the other day. Chloe was really, really anxious about something. Do you remember that? She was like crying and anxious, and she's like, she comes and she's like, I need to go for a drive. I need to talk to you about something. I'm like, what? We get in the car. She's like, I really need some GABA. Someone bring me some GABA. It was the weirdest conversation, but it really helps her settle down.
So diaphragmatic breathing, killing the ants, anti-anxiety foods. We're having salmon tonight in a little bit. I'm pretty excited about that. And the last thing is encourage healthy anxiety. The don't worry, be happy people, they die the earliest
Then I should
from
live a long
accidents
time.
or preventable illnesses. You want to have enough anxiety, especially during a global pandemic. So wash your hands, wear a mask, be thoughtful, be careful. Please don't cough on anybody. Let's be thinking in a smart, useful way. So we hope this is helpful. If you have mismatched anxiety and you feel like you're out of control, call us. Go to amenclinics.com. We'd be happy to help. We see people from had calls from 155 countries.
Someone from Nova Scotia on my chat today. It was so fun with Dr. Criado from Chicago.
I
It was
bet
so
that
cool.
was
Yeah.
fun.
He's all over.
Awesome.
He's awesome. He's our sleep doctor. So if you're having trouble sleeping, he's amazing.
And so how can people follow you on social media?
So I'm on Instagram right now. I'm doing a live, obviously, Tana Amen. And I'm also on Facebook, Tana Amen BSNRN. Yep. And I have free recipes on my website. So tanaamen.com. You can get free recipes. You can get blogs, all sorts of free fun
and we
stuff.
just went over 8.5 million
podcast, yes,
on our podcast, Brain Warriors Way. So if you like this, Brain Warriors Way podcast.com, you can listen to about 700 podcasts.
And we love answering questions. So please send us your questions, your comments, your concerns, what's going on in your life. Like, we love to do that. So
great. Hope you have a blessed day.
Thank you. Oh, how do I turn it off?
Can't turn it off.